Have you ever wondered what drives a person to cross the ultimate line? To commit an act so heinous it shatters their own world? Today, we're diving deep into the mind of one of literature's most famous anti-heroes. In Fyodor Dostoevsky's masterpiece, Crime and Punishment, our story unfolds in the sweltering, crowded streets of 19th-century St. Petersburg, a city teeming with poverty and desperation. Here we meet Rodion Raskolnikov, a former student, brilliant but destitute, living in a tiny, coffin-like room. He's dropped out of university, can't afford rent, and is slowly starving. But it's not just physical hunger that gnaws at him. It's an intellectual and spiritual crisis. Raskolnikov has developed a dangerous theory. He believes humanity is divided into two categories: ordinary people, who are bound by laws, and morality, and extraordinary people like Napoleon, who have the right to transgress those laws for a higher purpose, for the greater good of humanity. He sees himself, of course, as one of these extraordinary men. He thinks, if I could use a small evil to achieve a great good, wouldn't that be justified? His target becomes Alyona Ivanovna, a greedy, unscrupulous pawnbroker. He sees her as a louse, a parasite feeding on the misery of others. He reasons that by ending her life, he could use her ill-gotten wealth to rescue his family from poverty and restart his own brilliant career, ultimately benefiting society. He convinces himself that her death wouldn't be a crime, but a righteous act, a simple step over a moral obstacle. So, one fateful evening, filled with a chilling mix of terror and resolve, Raskolnikov goes to the pawnbroker's apartment. He clutches a stolen axe under his coat. The act itself is brutal, clumsy, and horrifying, nothing like the clean, philosophical exercise he'd imagined. Panic sets in, and just as he's about to flee, the pawnbroker's gentle, innocent half-sister, Lizaveta, walks in. In a blind frenzy, to eliminate the only witness, Raskolnikov kills her too. This second murder shatters his theory. Lizaveta was not a louse. She was an innocent victim. He didn't just step over an obstacle. He stumbled into a nightmare of his own making. The intellectual justification crumbles, leaving only the raw, bloody reality. He escapes, barely, and stashes the stolen goods without even counting them. The money he supposedly needed for his grand plans becomes irrelevant. What follows is not the triumphant start of an extraordinary man's journey, but a descent into hell. Raskolnikov is immediately consumed by a feverish delirium, a psychological torment that is far worse than any physical prison. He is trapped in his own mind. Every knock on the door, every sideways glance on the street, feels like an accusation. Paranoia becomes his constant companion. He wanders the city in a daze, teetering on the brink of confession one moment and lashing out with arrogant pride the next. He pushes away his loyal friend Razumikhin and torments his own family. His loving mother and sister, Dunya, who have sacrificed everything for him. He's isolated himself, not just from society, but from his own humanity. He didn't just kill two women. He killed a part of himself. In this tormented state, two key figures enter his life. The first is Porfiry Petrovich, the brilliant and psychologically astute detective investigating the murders. Porfiry doesn't have any concrete evidence, but he has an almost supernatural intuition about Raskolnikov. Their conversations are like high-stakes chess matches. Porfiry circles him, laying intellectual traps, discussing Raskolnikov's own article on the extraordinary man theory. He doesn't accuse him directly. Instead, he tortures him with psychology, suggesting that the true punishment is the torment of the criminal's own conscience. The second, and most important figure, is Sonia Marmeladova. Sonia is the embodiment of suffering and sacrifice. Forced into prostitution to support her destitute family, she is a social outcast. Yet, where Raskolnikov has pride, Sonia has humility. Where he has intellectual theory, she has unwavering faith. Raskolnikov is drawn to her, seeing in her a fellow transgressor, a kindred spirit in suffering. He tests her, pushing her to her limits, but is ultimately humbled by her profound capacity for love and forgiveness. It is to Sonia, and only Sonia, that he finally confesses his crime. He expects her to recoil in horror, but instead, she weeps for him. She embraces him and tells him he must confess to the authorities and accept his suffering to find redemption. She gives him a small wooden cross, promising to follow him wherever he goes. Sonia reads him the biblical story of Lazarus being raised from the dead, a powerful symbol of hope for his own spiritual resurrection. But Raskolnikov is not ready. He's still torn between his pride and his guilt. Meanwhile, another man, a poor painter, confesses to the murders under duress. This should be Raskolnikov's ticket to freedom, but the freedom is hollow. He realizes that a legal acquittal means nothing when his own soul is in chains. Porfiry, knowing the truth, visits him one last time, urging him to confess for his own sake. In the end, driven by Sonia's love and the unbearable weight of his secret, Raskolnikov walks to the police station. On the way, he stops in the Haymarket, kneels down, and kisses the dirty earth, as Sonia had told him to. A public act of accepting his guilt and his connection to the common humanity he had tried to rise above. He confesses. The epilogue finds Raskolnikov in a Siberian prison camp. At first, he is still proud and unrepentant, alienated from the other prisoners who sense his intellectual arrogance. But Sonia has followed him, living in a nearby town and visiting him, a beacon of hope in the desolate landscape. One day, Raskolnikov falls ill. As he recovers, he has a dream of a world infected by a plague of pure reason, where everyone believes their own truth is absolute, leading to total chaos and self-destruction. He wakes up and finally understands the destructive poison of his own theory. He sees Sonia waiting for him on the riverbank. He looks at her, and for the first time, his heart breaks open. He weeps, finally surrendering his pride and accepting her unconditional love. Dostoevsky writes that this is where a new story begins. The story of a man's gradual renewal, of his slow passage from one world into another. The crime is over. The punishment is complete, and the long, difficult road to redemption has just begun. Crime and Punishment is more than a detective story. It's a profound exploration of guilt, suffering, and the possibility of redemption through love. It's a timeless warning against the danger of ideas that place us above our fellow human beings. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into one of literature's greatest novels. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into classic stories. Let me know in the comments what you think of Raskolnikov's journey. Until next time.